We always talk about the festival that there's two programs. There's this booklet that we spend the whole year scheduling to, minute detail, making sure that the venues are alternating so that we try and get the sound the best that we possibly can, given we're cramming 27 venues into a limited space. So there's that program, but the real program is how people engage with that, the decisions they make, and then what interrupts their day as they think they're going to go and do that, but instead they go and do that. And so that's really that's the powerful program, because that's the participation, engagement, that's like getting amongst it, and that's the exciting one.
Hello and welcome to Radio Woodfordia with me, Harley Breen, a very special citizens-only episode with the amazing Amanda Jakes. I found out I've always been calling her Amanda Jakes. Did you call her Amanda Jakes as well? It's not. It's Amanda Jakes. She corrected me. I was happy to be corrected. This is a great episode because it's not questions from me, it's questions from you. It's citizen-provided questions that I act as the conduit between Amanda, the artistic director, creative director, managing director. She's a director. She directed the questions and answers very well. Anyway, I enjoyed the knowledge that she had, the answers that she gave to the varying different questions, including what was the favourite piece of art she's ever seen. Not a random question and a cracking answer. Enjoy. Amanda Jakes.
Oh, it's Jake's too.
Ah, is it?
Yeah.
Am I one of few says it wrong, or does everyone says it wrong?
Mostly everyone says it wrong until I tell them what it is. So it's just that C in there. People get confused with that C, so just pretend it doesn't have a C. It's bastardised French.
And it's Jake's, right?
Yeah,
and that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
So not then Jacques?
Yeah, it's definitely not that.
Well, pronunciation is important of people's
Jakes.
names. So I have a lot of new people arrive to comedy from diverse backgrounds with quite intense names. I'm often an MC and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it." I'm like, "No, I want to be worried about it. I want to say your name right."
Yeah.
And I always use the example because they'll come up with stage names because they might have a name that's too hard to pronounce. And I always use the example of Peter Saleh. And they go, "Who?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that was Akmal. He spent years under the stage name of Peter Saleh because he didn't think anyone was going to come on board with Akmal,
wow.
and then rebranded himself as his real name. That's
There you
Akmal.
go.
I'm like, just be who you are. People will figure it out.
They will.
And I've been brought on stage as Harvey Green, so But we're not here to talk about me, and in a weird way, we're not here to talk about you, which I would like to do. I'm a big fan of yours, Amanda. I'm not just saying that because you're the boss. I would like to know all about you. But what we've done with this, a very special episode of Radio Woodfordia, is put out questions to the citizens to ask you. I am the conduit from the citizens to you. This is a hot speed round with Amanda. Are you willing to answer these questions?
Sounds like a great way to spend an afternoon, Harley.
And you're one to answer it too. You've been here forever. By your own admission, I think it was at the conservatory, I found out that you'd been here since you were 18 years old. So just 10 years then.
Yes. Short history.
I'm going to kick it off with a question from Jennifer, who I think raises an important point and something that I've thought about as being a lover of this festival. And we talk about the main one because there's plenty of things that happen here throughout the year. And I've gone, I just want to stay. This is from Jennifer. As I'm on holidays, like most people at the time of the year the festival is on, I'm never in a hurry to leave Woodfordia. It's just so peaceful and beautiful to enjoy when most have left. I would be happy to pay the extra days camping site fees to stay longer, extending my season camping site. Is that something that could be done in the future? Regards, Jennifer. The basic question is, can I stay after the 2nd of January?
So 6 days just isn't long enough. Totally get that because it is wonderful that you can relax to such an extent at a festival. I think that's a really important part of Woodfordia. But come the 2nd of January, the team have a massive job of packing the festival up. It takes us about 5 weeks to build the festival. We have to pack it up in less than a week and get everything off site. So it means the logistics of all of the moving parts turn that into quite an intensive construction site. It would no longer be relaxing to be at.
Yeah.
So the short answer is no, because it's a construction site then, and it just would not be relaxing.
And not only would it not be relaxing, it's incredibly dangerous. There's huge machinery moving around, and I guess this is a situation around economy. Got to get a lot of the hire equipment off-site because you pay for it while it's sitting here. Let's get it out of here.
Absolutely.
Not to mention the bodies that have to bring it down after that huge festival.
Yeah, so the build crew stay for an extra week. So we need to get as much work done in that week as possible. And also you're factoring it around weather that might be coming in January. So it's really important for us to get a really good start on the 2nd of January about packing the beautiful village up.
I knew the answer, but I asked the question anyway. I want to jump to a question about when we hold the festival. It's right here. This is a long-term Woodford Folk Festival patron, weekender, folk clubber, and Lake Gula camping attendee. Firstly, this person loves spending time at Woodford at all times of the year and has described herself as ginger hair with white Scottish skin. I think we know where this is going. And it's a special place to be. I have wondered, especially with the closing down of the Blues Festival, if Woodford Folk Festival would ever consider running over Easter instead of Christmas, New Year's. December can be so offensively hot, and the threat of destructive storms a worry each year. Easter is so much milder, temps, and less storm chance, but still beautiful and warm enough to swim. I'll still come along at any time of the year. I just wouldn't spend so much of the daytime hiding from the sun. Cheers. Amber. What an appropriate name.
I'm pleased to hear Amber's still coming. But no, currently there are no plans to move it to that Easter time. We did survey our audience and have done over a couple of times over our 30 or 40 year history about a different time of the year. But I think there's two big important elements, and that is that 40% of everyone that's at the festival comes from interstate or overseas. So it has to be a holiday period that aligns around Australia and has the shoulders on either side to enable people to get there for a camping festival. And also, I think Woodford now, very much part of what it is it's about that renewal, that end of the year pilgrimage that you lead up to, and the renewal about taking off all of the layers that you've put on over the years of the different persons you've had to be, taking all of those off so that you can start the year afresh. And that's very much a part of what Woodford is now and what the journey to Woodford is and what Woodford's become for people. So I can't see us moving it at any time in the near future. And I also encourage people to go to the National Folk Festival over the Easter time or Lake Gula camping at Woodfordia and enjoy some good music that way.
That's a cracking answer. Also, I think there's too much made out of the heat. I am a Queenslander in my blood, as I know you are. Travel around a lot in your upbringing around this vast state. So maybe it's a little bit I can cope with it. But it's not that big a deal. I think people get worked up about it. Certainly in my role as booking comedians from the southern states, they're like, but isn't it horrible, mate? No, you work out what to do at certain times, at certain temperatures. It's fine. And I do love that transition from the one year to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just such an important part of what Woodford is. I think we have to keep working harder to make the festival comfortable for those people that do feel the heat more than Queensland born and bred people. And I know that, some of the areas of the festival, when you walk under where there is canopy there now, it is like an air-conditioned venue. And we've got to do better at that. We did some great, lined street installations a couple of years before COVID. We've got to try and work out ways to bring those back. Building the lake in our season camping area, that was in a direct response to people saying, we're feeling the heat a bit, and we're saying, well, what can we do to help? What about building a swimming, a place to swim? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Our actual season numbers were declining a bit in the lead up to prior to when we built the lake, and we've been, increasing ever since then. So, and the lake has been, you can't imagine Woodfordia without
No,
Lake Gula now.
it's weird,
It's
isn't it?
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feels like it
Something.
was always there.
Yeah, it does. So we'll keep trying to do our bit to make Woodfordia more comfortable for those people outside of Queensland.
Good on you. And what a good model for how healthy, functioning cities should be built is actually think about that. Where the trees planted, is there cover, is there places to find shade? Because that's an issue, that we're facing with climate change around cities on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And even at Woodford, like on a really small scale, we struggle with maintaining the flexibility of being able to move venues. So where you do plant trees, you know that you're removing that choice of being able to move the festival site around a bit. So we do need to look at better like shading where we have got those open areas. But I mean, I think the venues are getting more comfortable to be in. There's elements of the festival that you can get respite in different areas and to, time your day out for what you're doing, what, when.
And get a sarong, wet it and tie it around your neck. You'll be all right. This is a question about how to be involved in Woodford. I like this as the father of 4 million children. My little family of 3 have been travelling down to Woodford from Darwin, speaking of the heat, since our almost 18-year-old was still in the womb. Our daughter is now very keen to volunteer at Woodford this year. What's Woodford's plan to maintain this multi-generational love of Woodford? I know it's not just our family who love Woodford and have children who want to contribute to the festival's sustainability. Thanks for so many wonderful memories. That's from Leanne up in Darwin.
Well, that's a great question, Leanne. We do have volunteering for youth in our program, and it actually starts at 13 years of age. So, which is great. It used to start later, but we've brought it to 13, and that actually applies to the build period as well as the festival period. So, young people can volunteer with their parent during their build if their parent is volunteering in the build, or at the festival without their parent. So. And volunteering at the festival is such a great way to really get amongst the festival and find that space of, finding out people that you wouldn't have bumped into in where you'd normally go around the event. I know that sense of belonging and ownership that you can get, and that's really important for young people to find their space at the festival outside of their family unit. So it's a really good opportunity. And with Champions of Woodfordia now, I mean, that's a youth-led project. I think there's 7 of them working on that, ranging from 17 to 22.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing group. So, I mean, there's going to be more opportunities like that in the future. So, get a team together and challenge other people for volleyball games at the festival as well. Challenge some of the performers, reach out to them. So there's heaps of way to get involved. We always talk about the festival that there's 2 programs. There's this booklet that we spend the whole year scheduling to minute detail, making sure that the venues are alternating so that we try and get the sound the best that we possibly can, given we're cramming 27 venues into a limited space. So there's that program, but the real program is how people engage with that, the decisions they make, and then what interrupts their day as they think they're going to go and do that, but instead they go and do that. And so that's really that's the powerful program, because that's the participation, engagement, that's like getting amongst it, and that's the exciting one.
Yeah, it goes without saying that, Woodford wouldn't exist without the volunteers. But I think there's a deeper reason to say that. It's not just because the place just wouldn't get built. It just wouldn't rise up out of the valley. But at the festival time, with the volume, I don't think people really realise the volume of volunteers that are mingling around and are actually a part of this vibe and that energy of the festival.
Well, and they actually set the culture of the festival. And I mean, it starts small during the year, even just with the people that are gathering in the office, but then it gradually builds, and then the build volunteers come and start. And they actually set the culture for the temporary society that we build. And nothing can say that more than back in the millennial year, when we were noticing in our pre-sales, we'd normally have 70% return visitors, 30% new. So you've got that beautiful balance of the community's established its culture and new people are welcomed into that. And it's a lovely, existing fabric that people can become part of. But if you didn't have such a well-developed ethos within that community, it could be changed on an annual basis by quite a cohort of new people that aren't aware of what our recycling policy is, how we, just how welcoming and friendly the festival is. But in that millennial year, we were noticing in the pre-sales that almost 50% of everyone buying a ticket to the festival was completely new to the festival. And we were a bit concerned about how the culture was going to be at the millennial year and the whole hype around, the Y2K bug and all of that. We were concerned with what impact that was going to have on the streets, and particularly on New Year's Eve. Because one year, when we were up in Mullaney, the Sunshine Coast actually closed all of the beaches on a New Year's because they were having problems with behaviour on the beaches on New Year's. And they did this pretty without notice. And we got all of these new people to the Mullaney Folk Festival, and we were a bit stunned. I can remember Bill called a meeting of all of us organisers that were involved with the festival to say, everyone is on duty tonight. We're all out on the streets and we're just being amongst the community and making sure that the friendliness, the vibe, the hello, how are you, happy new year, getting to know everyone there, to make sure that we kept that sense of community that we didn't normally have to work on. It was just naturally there. But we did that to get through that night. It was a pretty full-on night. So we knew the impact that change in community could have. So in the millennial year, the idea was that on the 31st of December, we would call 3 minutes of silence at 11:30 at night, just to take the hype out of everything. Like, there's been 16 bars operating since 10 o'clock in the morning. You've got 20,000 people on site. We just needed to calm everyone down before the big change, the changeover to the new century. And we it was Bill's mad idea, of course, and the idea was calling 3 minutes of silence and then distributing 20,000 birthday candles that everyone would simultaneously light. And then why don't we get the Dalai Lama to light the first candle, extinguish that, send it over to Australia. We light another few hundred and then extinguish that, so that everyone's candle is actually going to be lit by a derivative of the Dalai Lama's on the night. So
what a Bill idea.
Just to keep making it harder and harder and harder. And to this day, people talk about the 3 minutes of silence as, where were you during the 3 minutes of silence at the festival? Because wherever you are at the festival during the 3 minutes of silence, it's different. I remember the year after COVID, when we had the 3 minutes of silence, I'd been in the Grand, up on the Grand Hill, and when that happened, over the other side on Chill Hill, all of these hundreds of candles lit up, and you didn't know people were over there, and it was like we were talking to this other community of people over this, valley. And it was just beautiful. So wherever you are during that 3 minutes of silence, it's once again a different perspective. And on the program, it's just this little thing, but how that resonates throughout the whole community is so powerful. And then the first time people that have come to the festival, they look around and they really quite start to get it.
Yeah, look, it's my favourite moment. This year I did happen to fall asleep at 11:27. Back at my campsite. But you find that moment of where to be. But what really struck me there in that story of where that comes from is what an interesting and powerful way to look at law and order. It wasn't about dominating. It wasn't about putting boots on the ground. It was about putting smiles and community and
Connecting
hugs
each other.
and connecting and creating a moment to calm everything down before there even was an issue that needed force. I think, again, lots of cities around Australia could take that on. Just get out in the community. Another question. This one, what is the story behind the pavers that were done many years ago and whereabouts on site are they? This is from Chris.
Okay, well, probably to answer the end of the question first, the most visible area they are at the moment is they're in front of the tea house. There's a number of the pavers there. But the idea goes back in Mullaney days, once again, when we were constructing the festival back there, we used to use a bit of the oval, which was a cricket oval. So, cricketers are very protective of cricket ovals, even more so than, and then there's the pitch,
Yes,
the protection
yeah.
of the pitch, that's at a whole different level. So when we used the oval, we needed to put down bedding sand and lay pavers to be able to protect the grass there, and then pull that up immediately after the festival. That was better than trudging a heap of people and potentially, turning that into a mud area.
Because we are herd animals.
Yes, we are herd animals.
We will really churn up the ground. Yeah.
So back up there, we actually bought about 12 pallets of pavers, and that was part of constructing the festival then. And we'd lay what was called the yellow brick road, and that was over the oval area, and that was a lovely, because it was always about creating this village feel. So you want the pathways to just feel like this village, and we loved the yellow brick road analogy. And so when we were down here, Penny Smith, who head up the visual arts workshops and site decor on site, she came up with this idea of carving the pavers and before they got fired. So we'd get the raw pavers in with a view for them being the pathways in the future. What we didn't think about was that we also drive a lot of vehicles on the pathways, and pavers aren't really good for vehicles, particularly when somebody's carved quite an elaborate, detailed pattern in theirs, and there's in some parts only a centimetre left of the paver because it's quite three-dimensional at that stage. So there were an art project, and we still have a number of pallets that we do intend to use, but they are deployed in quite a number of areas at the festival. But I'd encourage people to go to the tea house, because I think it's only a festival 2 years ago, and Lockie was serving a chai at the tea house, and somebody looked down and actually spotted a paver that they'd done like 10 years earlier. So that was pretty special. Lockie was pretty chuffed
What a
by
moment.
that.
And go for a hunt. I think that's the fun thing around this site, is that you just go for an explore.
Yes. Yeah.
Have a look around. Okay, so the next question is kind of a three-parter. There's two parts for the question, and then there's another question after that sort of feeds into it. But here's the first two-parter. Do you remember when people used to come to the main office and ask, is Amanda in? Great. A dad's written this, surely. No, it's a woman. To inquire as to your status/location, how has the professional culture of Woodfordia changed over the years? What stayed the same? Also, how do you balance authentic working relationships with the need to maintain a professional reserve?
Okay, right. Well, maybe if I just start with the last part, I don't think they're professional working relationships and the need to maintain a reserve. I don't think they're separate from each other. I think it's all about relationships. So Woodford has grown in scale. It's grown in responsibility. It's grown in accountability. We are responsible for treating all the water on site, treating all the sewerage on site, appropriate testing for Lake Gula, building a temporary village that turns into the 67th largest town in Australia. So there's a lot of responsibility with all of that. But what hasn't changed is, at the core of everything, is our relationships with each other, and accountability, and being clear about things. We're working with some of our friends, like Eileen O'Shea and I have worked together for 22 years, I think. So we're working with, mates within the organisation that you've got, long relationships with. And those relationships can be easily maintained when the work and the the professional working relationship is built on that honesty and authenticity and accountability, because everyone wants that. Everyone wants that framework to be able to thrive within. And I think one of the things that I remember, Bill and I, we got an opportunity to talk with the head of like quite a large multinational, and we thought we might learn some really good business tips with this person. And he had, 3 things to teach us. And strangely enough, we've forgotten one of them, but we always remembered the other 2.
Mustn't have been important.
Which was research everything, and which we knew that. We had been doing that from the day dot. Visitors survey. We could go back to Mulaney days with visitors survey about what they were happy with, what they were unhappy with, and the level of satisfaction, because that helps us build the experience for next year, to know what the impact of the festival and that experience was on people that were at the village. And the next one was to hire passionate people. Skills can be taught. Like you can get you can get those skills, but you can't teach passion. You need passionate people, and if you want to work on a big, large scale project, and you want to have a determination to do something that is different from everything else, you need people with passion to help get it through. So that's important to have that passion. But it's just as important to have accountability, honesty, have the hard conversations when needed. But being human is about like all of those elements of enjoying your working life, but creating an environment where everyone gets to flourish.
Yeah, it reminds me of the episode I did with McBride, and was talking to her about her role with the volunteers and what her focus is. And, I boiled it down to, you're into people management, you're managing people. And she was like, yeah, well, my job is to keep them happy. And then I said, and who keeps you happy? And she went, Amanda. And that's the role, right? Everything you just said there, it's actually to create this environment. It's not nothing at all. I find people management quite difficult sometimes. So it shouldn't be breezed over. It's a real skill. And I think what I've learned of from you down and everyone in that inner sort of part of the organisation community is really about working with people and making sure that that passion is encouraged and flourishes. And
it's really and putting the structures in place that support that, but not a bureaucracy that weighs it down. And I think that's the thing, because humans are really good at creating bureaucracy. Like, within departments, sometimes you'll see like a level of like decision making that is larger than the actual in the organisation. And you've got to think, why do we need that level of bureaucracy? So you've got to pare it back. That's really important. But building those systems, but also, making sure people understand how it all works, who to talk to when, and that people have that support, because it's an unusual thing building the festival, particularly because you're working with people, you're living with people, you're dining with the same people, you're sharing the same shower blocks and toilet blocks. So it's an unusual work environment. If you've got a problem with a colleague, you can go home at the end of the day. In the build, like it's just like you're in it.
Yeah.
It's really intense.
Pun intended.
Pun intended. So it's that working relationship and that respect, everything built on the respect. I think one of the most beautiful documents in our organisation that beautifully accompanies the 500-year plan is the Creed of Common Decency that Lockie Brown, our chair of the board, wrote. And it's all about reciprocity. It's all about, treating somebody how you would like to be treated. But the important thing is holding that when that isn't returned. So it's easy to do that when we're all getting on well. But when that's not happening, to even hold that goodwill still, even when it's not being returned, that is the challenge. That is the challenge that we all grapple with.
Absolutely.
It's easy. In good times, it's very easy, but it's in the challenging times where that true need for it really shines through. And that's when we all have to dig deep.
Yeah,
find
around that kind of that whole ethos too, there seems to be, from my view, there's calmness around all of this because, and I'm not even making a joke here, but we've got 500 years. So there's this calmness. There doesn't seem to be a rush. It's like we have a plan,
Yeah,
and we will achieve it. We don't have to do it all today.
I know. And I think it's also acknowledging our place in the environment, that we are part of nature, and to slow down and remember our part in nature. There's nothing more humbling than going to Lake Gula in the middle of the year, in the morning before going into the office, standing down at the jumping rock and seeing a lungfish and knowing that ecologically that lungfish is our cousin. They are the connection between the sea animals and the land animals. This fish that has a primitive lung, that, I mean, that's mind blowing. And that at Woodfordia there's this habitat that's been built for humans recreational swimming, but it has the balance of being also a habitat for a lungfish, an endangered prehistoric animal or fish, that relates to us, that is the ecological link between sea and land animals. It just blows your mind.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to see nature in action, just look at little children. You know, I observe mine when they're here, and the way that they breathe out and start to really explore and become quite, in the beautifulest way, animalistic in the way that they engage with nature around and are connected with it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes directly connected. Things bite them. It's fine. So this question really feeds on from that. The question regards the Forest of Goodwill campaign to buy the land back from council. I understand we are nearly halfway to our target of over 5 million, but we still have a good way to go to raising the funds we need. I understand that after June 30, our target will increase on a yearly basis. What will the target be to buy the land by the end of 26-27? And how many years do we have under our contract with council to reach the target? What is Woodfordia doing to garner support from the potential business and private financiers to help us reach the target in 26-27? I think it's a great question.
It is. I'm so pleased that one of our citizens asked this question, because it gives us the opportunity to talk about the Forest of Goodwill and buying the land back. So when we signed the contract with council back in 2011, when we sold them the land-only component, and Woodfordia kept the 18.5 million of depreciating assets, we had a 25-year buyback clause and a 50-year lease, just as an extra protection buffer. And we thought 25 years was ample time to, we thought a couple of $100,000 a year would be able to reach that. Well, we didn't know COVID was coming. We didn't know the cost of living crisis was coming, and we didn't know the music industry crisis was coming. So the last few years have been, quite challenging in that regard. And I think idealistically, we might have had this idea that somebody was going to come in and help save the day, somebody that had a considerable amount of funds, that agreed with the purpose and values of the organisation, that was aligned with that would help realise this vision. And I think 2 years ago, we really worked out that, well, it was actually the community that bought the land in the first place. We had $40,000 in the bank at our last Mullaney Folk Festival, and we needed to raise an extra $60,000 to be able to have the $100,000 deposit to buy the initial 240 acres that we bought to move the then Mullaney Folk Festival down to Woodford. And we went out with a fundraising campaign, probably Australia's first crowdfunding campaign, and raised $60,000 in what was called a Buy a Brick campaign. It really dawned on us 2 years ago that it's our community that we need to ask for help to do this again, to secure the land, and then this time put it in a foundation. So no matter what the situation is, we have to come up with a different alternative than selling the land to be able to secure the future.
That's a recent change, isn't it? That foundational
Yes.
change.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the foundation's now been established, Woodfordia Foundation. Ian Lowe, Professor Ian Lowe, is the chair of the foundation. Big fan. And a tree was planted just at the planting festival to acknowledge the establishment of the foundation that will be the vehicle that holds the land in trust once we've bought it back. So with that, coming to that, we are now have really about we've set ourselves a target of 1.4 million to raise by the end of June next year. That's this next target. In the first 6 months, we raised 1.2 million. In the next 12 months, we raised 1.4. So we're hoping to match what we've done in the last 12 months with that.
It's an incredible effort.
It's an incredible effort, but it just shows how important this festival is to the Woodfordian community. And when I think the citizen asked the question about how we're going to get others involved in that, what we've seen is the overwhelming support from our community and how much it means to them. When we've shared that story with people outside of the community, that's what's taken their breath away, that the community has come forward with this. And really, that's what's going to help bring those other businesses and philanthropists into the Woodfordian story, which has been demonstrated by this community. So we've needed to lead first in this space. And that through doing that, it's helping us build relationships outside of Woodfordia. So that's the only, and once again, it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
It's all about that and sharing the story of Woodfordia, and that's everyone's story to share.
Yeah, and although the challenges there is bigger than just one person dropping in and dropping coin on it. It fits and to have a whole group,
and it's more. There's so much more empowering.
Yeah,
and so many people are taking pride in their contribution. What I particularly love is when we set up the founding patrons, which are people that have donated $1,000 towards buying the land back. They're called founding patrons, and this is a once in a history moment of being founding patrons of the Woodfordia Foundation. What I love in there is that there's people like me who's choosing their daughter to be a founding patron. There's Costa who's choosing his nieces and nephews to be founding patron. So when you see the ages in there, we're seeing the next generation of Woodfordians in there, and that's a powerful story, because I think that's what's moving a lot of people to say this is really important, because I've enjoyed this. It's benefited my life. I don't want to imagine a world that my children or my grandchildren aren't going to enjoy this as well.
Great attitude. Yeah. And I think becoming rarer. I think it's an amazing thing. I feel honoured to be a part of it and see that the people like yourself that have been here for so long thinking forward beyond your own lives.
Yeah.
More of that. I want to jump to a question about the elders. There was a question about why the elders are all male, and have you considered female elders? Now, I thought they were talking about Ginniburra elders,
right.
But they're actually talking about those great big huge puppets.
Yes, yeah.
I can't find it exactly here. I think it was on the first page, but it doesn't matter. That's the crux of the question. Why are they all male? Have you considered female elders? Response to that controversial question?
Well, I believe it's our unconscious bias that sees them as males. Because I chatted with Daniele once about the elders, and in Daniele, who's the creator, the artist behind the elders, to him, they're neither females or males. So it's probably what we've put on them as opposed to what the artist has. So I would probably just suggest that maybe for the citizen, maybe look at the elders next time and imagine, are they really men or are they just elders?
So basically what you're saying, Amanda, is women can also be old, wrinkly and bald.
Yeah.
It's not just a male role.
Exactly, Harley.
Now, this is around from a stall holder. And do love the stalls. And maybe I can put this together with a question that was quite wordy, around the stuff that's on offer. I'll read this one and see how it goes. Hello, Amanda. As a food stall holder, I would like to see Woodford setting up some basic food standards for what is allowed into the festival. For example, no battery farmed animal products, no to, I don't even know if I should say the brand name here because we could be libelous. But it's a famous soda brand
Right.
who are wiping out rainforests. I understand that we all have our own opinions of what is okay to eat or not to eat, but I feel that Woodford, as Caring for the Earth Festival, has some responsibility to act on this issue. I love Woodford and all what it stands for. And the other question was all around vegetarianism and veganism and the offerings of meat. And I think you could probably easily tick off both of those questions from your point of view. What is the philosophy around what is on offer here? Because there are some pretty problematic things within the food industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the soda, I do think we have some restrictions around, what can be on offer at the festival, because we want to give opportunities, particularly to locally developed products. So we do have guidelines in place on that. I think for all of our food offerings that we do, whether they're at any of our internal events or whether they're at our big festivals, like we're always making sure that there are vegan offerings, vegetarian offerings, gluten-free offerings, and particularly in the build period, in the lead up to Woodford, like every type of allergy is actually addressed, and that's really important. As to prescribing some of the things for stallholders, we do a lot of prescribing around, what the composting cutlery and plates that they can have. It's very restrictive about the setup of running a food stall, particularly at the festival. You can imagine the responsibility of that, both of the stallholder and of Woodford, and having a safe and compliant stall. So that's really important. But actually telling them what food offerings they can have, we're trying to get as much diversity as we can in that space. Whilst acknowledging it is one of the hardest spaces to work in at the festival, and probably actually outside the festival as well. The risk that our food stall holders particularly go into a festival at is huge. Like, they have the amount of consumables sitting in cold room over that 6 days of the festival for them to be able to operate their business as well. Breakfast, lunch and dinner and everything in between during that 6 and 7 days, because the festival opens on the Boxing Day. It is huge, and I really our food stalls bring such diversity and such community to the village. They are just such an integral part of it. To be prescriptive with them about what offerings that they can put forward, I think that we would find it very hard to be able to attract the number of stalls that would be needed to feed Woodford. But also we want it to be such a culturally diverse offering as well. That's so important. So I feel that the mix that we have at the moment, for my thinking, is a good offering for the patrons that are coming to the festival. And I really take my hat off to anyone running a food stall at a large scale or a small scale event. It's not for the faint-hearted.
No, and look, from my experience within all of the festival work that I've done, and any city, to be honest, I've lived in, there is no better diversity of food than during that festival. And people comment on that, the food is amazing. And I want to add to this too, if you think the food is expensive, they're also not charging near enough of what they need.
No.
They're working on margins that are so tiny. And I think the attitude from this question is bang on. We should absolutely want that change. And we should, as the brother of a regen farmer, should be supporting local, eat local, all of that. And that should be the attitude of everyone. But that can't happen overnight.
No.
Logistically, it can't happen. And people are working on pretty thin margins. And I think if we can do our best, which from my point of view, I see at the festival.
Yeah. I mean, it really, when we're thinking about the festival and thinking about particularly building the village, we do imagine it as a village and think, what do we need in the village? Like last year, one of the things that came up is just like, we don't have a library in the village. Every village has to have a library. How have we had a festival for so many years without a library? So we brought a library into the festival and put the lettering house near the library, and it's just such a beautiful addition. When we were bringing the chai tent back, initially it was like, oh yes, bringing the chai tent back. We'd had discussions about it, tentatively over the years. But last year it was like, no, it was really important. But it was also acknowledging the chai tent is a 24-hour venue, and we're not changing that. We're not bringing back this 12-hour chai tent and then everyone could go. The chai tent, it's a nourish bowl for the whole festival for 24/7 for those 6 days. So we thought about, well, what food offering do we want in there? What do we want that is going to be something that's going to appeal to everyone at any time of the day, that we can put forward at a reasonable price? And we thought dal, it's a cup of chai or a cup of dal. And it was just beautiful. And that was built from imagining people's experience at the festival. And I think that's the thing. One of the things I love about Woodford, it's not you're putting that on top of the festival. You're actually growing the festival up and thinking, oh, well, how would that be experienced? What are we missing there?
Yeah.
And so, those food, the thoughts about food of the festival is part of it.
Yeah.
It's not just an add-on at the end.
Yeah, and you can see that. And as the father of a family that has a lot of interesting food allergy problems, it's an easy festival to buy food at. There is everything on offer. I love this question. It's a really personal one to you, and not necessarily about this festival, but it's a favourite piece of art that you've seen in person. It's from Sky.
Oh, okay.
Great question.
What a great question. Sky might know that my background is in visual arts, and so favourite artwork in person. I'm going to say Picasso's Guernica.
Ooh.
And I'm going to say that because when I was in my 20s, I did a trip around Europe. I'd studied art, and I did a trip around Europe to see in person. I had a list of artworks that I wanted to see in person, and it was an incredible 6-month journey. And one of them took me to Madrid, and I knew the museum that Guernica was exhibited in, and it's a powerful work. It's Pablo Picasso created it, and it's probably one of the most anti-war artworks that you can imagine. It was to do with the Spanish Civil War and the bombing of a town called Guernica. So I went into this museum, and I deliberately didn't find out what room it was in, and each room I just went in with that expectation it could be it. And I did teach as an art teacher, and in one school I was involved in the school play, and myself and all the students, we actually did a life-size rendition of Guernica. So got to know the artwork quite intimately, and so there was a lot of discussions with the students as we were doing that. So it's just so powerful. It's just the innocence, the impact of war on innocent people and innocent animals, and just it was incredibly powerful. When I think about it in person, that would be up there.
A great answer. What a tourism sell for Madrid, did you say, is where it is? It's still there?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Well,
it would never move from there, yeah. And I think I want to say one that happened at Woodford as well, because this is one work that I thought was breathtakingly beautiful at Woodford, and that was Mycorrhiza, that Lindsay Pollock was the musical director for, and Craig Walsh did the projection work on, and it was a work on the pond. It was the first Woodford after COVID, so we'd had 2 years off. It was probably one of our works that we were able to get the right amount of funding for it, and it was beautiful to see every element of it executed. And the projection work that Craig did on the water had this like prehistoric fish swimming through the water, and with Lindsay's building music and the mycorrhiza coming out of the roots of the tree that are on that stage, on that bank, coming across the water to the audience and impacting us. I can still remember that. That was so powerful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and it was just beautiful seeing Lindsay's musicianship and Craig's imagery come together. Very special performance.
Yeah, that was an amazing time. Even just to be back here after those 2 years of COVID.
Yes.
'Cause at the time I was living in Victoria, so I really needed
Yeah.
Woodford to come back. And yeah, that was a special moment. Mine too, I can't remember the name of this, but it was an entire interactive village within Woodford. Do you remember you'd walk down into it and each shop front was like a performance?
Disturbia.
Disturbia. Oh, God, I loved that. I just loved the whole thing.
Do you remember the Cleavers too?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
I loved the Cleavers as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah.
But Disturbia, yeah, that was Annie Lee.
That was years
Phil
ago
Gordon.
now.
It was, yeah, that was amazing.
I used to come with my brother, and I think we went into that every day. We'd do that. We'd go, let's go in there again. That was amazing. Let's bring that back. We've had you for a long time already. I could obviously ask you. There's heaps more questions. I could talk to you all day, Amanda. I love your insight in this festival. I will just wrap it up though with this question, which I think is a great question to wrap it up with. Is how does Bill's legacy continue to shape the Woodfordia organisation moving forward? And what's something that you personally miss about Bill?
That's a beautiful question. Bill's legacy shapes in many ways, but I think the one that's foremost at the moment is that tenacity just to follow things through and not give up. Like, this period post-COVID has taken like a lot. We've seen so many great music festivals go under. It's a hard time for Australian musicians at the moment, and we just need to be stubborn and tenacious in this space. And Bill was that every day. His pathological optimism about the future was contagious and remains, even though he is not with us in person today. So definitely that.
Yeah.
And what do I miss? His humour and generosity. He was a truly joyful person. You know, his humour was at oddballs at times, and just, you know, it was hilarious. But his generosity of his time, his generosity of his delight in people and seeing them achieve well. But I think his attitude to life he took with humour and generosity, and that was it's beautiful.
That's great. I'm going to ask my own question. You've kind of, in various different ways, through all the ways you've answered these questions, you've answered this. You could go and you could be an art teacher. You could probably lead any organisation in this country. You'll probably get paid a lot more at different organisations too, I'd imagine. Why do you do this, considering you're so committed to that 500 years plan, and not to be the first to say this to you, you're not going to live to see that. Why do you do it?
I think it's a privilege to live a life where you get to be involved in something for purpose. And I think really the purpose is to be able to see humans flourish. And humans flourish through being connected with each other, being connected to their own creativity, and often the pathway to that is through others' creativity, and being aware that we are part of nature. We are not separate from it. We are nature.
Yeah.
We are a part of it. And all of that is wrapped up into this incredible organisation that is just not defined by any one thing. It is such a evolving. It's part of the rich tapestry of folk history that each generation is going to bring, their new interpretation and elements to it. This is not set in time to be recreated. It's to evolve, and that's what life is. And to live with that in your life is an incredible guiding path to try and find the best version of yourself, really. And I think that's what we're all trying to do. So I suppose doing that and being able to see when people have an experience that gets them in touch with, connected with others, in touch with their own creativity, connected to nature. That's a pretty amazing and powerful way to live in life. And yeah, and it's an incredible team to work with. It really is. It's a very fulfilling and humbling experience.
Well, what a humble answer to the question. And I see the joy and the enthusiasm in you about everything that you've talked about. Thanks heaps for that time. I know your time is precious, especially around this programming time of the year, so I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thanks, Harley. I've really loved it.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Well, there you go. A look into the knowledge and mind of Amanda Jakes. Felt privileged to have time with her in this busy time of the year for her. Hope you enjoyed it. It was recorded on Jinnabara country, produced by the wonderful people at Woodfordia Inc. As always, the music by the East Pointers. I'm your host, Harley Breen. If you're not already, you should subscribe to the podcast. There's so many more episodes. Thanks.